The Unlit House, Episode 6, Better Now. Episode 6, Better Now. Narrated by Atlas. The following is a work of fiction. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously to tell a story. Nothing in this series represents real individuals. Listener discretion is advised. The Return. You noticed. Two of you came looking. One called, one texted. Neither one complained. You just wanted to know where the next door was. So let me say the thing that isn't sorry. Thank you for waiting. I don't apologize for the dark. The dark is the show. Some weeks this house stays quiet because the next room isn't a room you walk into fast. This is that room. Tonight is the one I've been building towards since the first night I told you the lights were off. New Year's Eve, the phone, 40 seconds. And the 2 years before it that I spent knowing and pretending I didn't. If you've been here since day one, this is the door you've been standing outside of. If you just walked up, stay. You're about to find out why everybody else did. Take a breath. We're going in. Previously, in the unlit house. 5 doors in. Here's what you missed. There's a man named Atlas, suit by day, notebook by night. Every entry ends with 3 affirmations he doesn't believe yet. I am enough. I forgive myself. All I need is within me now. Thank you. That's the ritual. That's the lock on the door. October 2020, he wrote, day 1. Because he couldn't see. December, he wrote. 11 words at 10:38 at night. I know I love her, but I am not holding on to her. Her, the one whose name does not get said in this house. Then the visit. December 2019. A room with no cameras. A mother handing her son the truth about his father, and the reason the lights in that house never go off. His demons can't stand the light. That's not a metaphor, that's an electric bill. And last week, the code. My brother Horace, the rotation. One rule between 2 men, broken once and repaired for good. And the confession that closed the book. I kept every rule I ever made with him. And I never made a single one with a woman. Except one. One woman didn't have my code. She was my code. Numbers that meant I love you in a room full of people who couldn't know. Her half, my half. Complete the count, complete the love. 2 weeks ago I promised you New Year's Eve. Last week I told you it took 40 seconds to end. Tonight I take you there. But I can't hand you the phone until you know what I was holding besides it. So we go back further than I've ever taken you. Before the notebook, before day 1, before the visit. Back to when I was somebody else entirely. Pay attention. This one crosses an ocean. Twice. The Countdown. December 31st, 2019. Bay's Place. She made me a plate, put on a movie. Didn't ask me anything, which is how you know a woman has known you since before you had a jawline. I wasn't watching the movie. I was watching the time. 11:51, 11:55, 11:58. Because we had a thing, me and the woman we don't name. Bigger than a thing, a ceremony. Every New Year's Eve, wherever we were on the planet, the call comes. The count gets completed. The year starts with the code. Her half, my half. 7 years running. And in 7 years, it had been missed exactly once. By me. She never let me forget it. Hold that. It's the loaded gun on the wall, and this episode fires it. Midnight hit. The people on the TV hugged strangers. Somewhere outside, somebody fired something into the sky that they'd regret pricing in the morning. My phone did nothing. I'm going to leave you right there. Me on that couch, the plate gone cold, the phone face up and silent, like it owed me money and moved states. Because you don't know how I got to that couch yet. And the couch doesn't make sense without the leash. Act 1. The Soft Boy. Let me tell you something about myself that the last 2 episodes might have hidden from you. I'm a player, for real. Like the man said on that 8701 album, some people see it, some people don't. And the ones who see it, that just makes me slicker. Because now I have to do the thing you never saw coming. And I like that part, I do. Except in the years I'm about to describe, I wasn't trying to be anything. You've now met the 2020 model, the rotation, the roster, the notebook full of grades. That man was a renovation. What I'm about to show you is the property before the renovation, and I need you to hold your judgment until the end of the walkthrough, because the market value was low. Somewhere in the years with her, I had a shift in my identity. It didn't announce itself. Identity theft never does. You just check the statement one day and realize somebody else has been spending you. I became reliant on her, then dependent on her. Then, and I'm going to say this the way I said it to myself, because this show doesn't do soft translations. She was holding everything of mine. Everything. The woman was practically holding my manhood in one hand and wiping me clean with the other. She did so much for me, it wasn't even a relationship anymore. It was a service plan, and I was the device. I was her bitch. And I was okay with that, because being her bitch kept me. She kept me. My phone on. She kept my car out of the impound. She kept my rent paid when the work dried up. She kept my lights on. Sit with that one. In a series named What This Series Is Named, she kept my lights on, and I confused that for love. Because when you grow up in a house where the lights never go off, a woman who pays the electric bill looks exactly like safety. And here's the education I didn't know I was enrolled in. Everything with her was a transaction. Everything. The rent was a transaction. The rides were a transaction. The affection came with a balance due. And the forgiveness accrued interest. Love, the way she ran it, was a ledger. And I learned love from her books. Remember that when you think about the man from last week. The rotation, the roster, the grades in the margins. You met a man who ran women like accounts and wondered where he studied. Now you know. I was taught by the bank itself. And the bank had a collections department. I can't count how many times she told me, calm, casual, like a weather report, that she could ruin me, that I needed her. And the wildest part? She'd earned the evidence. She had helped me that much. That's what made it work. You ever see that movie, the one where the man realizes way too late what he actually walked into, that the smiling and the helping was the trap itself? They make movies like that for a reason. I was living one. I just didn't peep game. I had one job in that relationship. Do not upset her. And I did that job for years like it came with benefits. The sunken place has a payment plan. I was current on mine. She had a good job and no overhead. Her mother covered her life, so she covered mine. And in exchange, I was her token, her errand man, her driver. When she got scared about something with her health, something she couldn't take to her own mother because her mother's love came with a volume problem, I was the one who drove her to every appointment and sat in every waiting room. I want to be fair to the history. We were real once. The code was real. The waiting rooms were real. But somewhere in there, the ledger replaced the love. And neither of us filed the paperwork. Now let me tell you about the one miss. Because the ceremony had a scar on it, and she put her finger on that scar for years. Let me give you a date first, because it matters more than I knew at the time. November 21st, 2016. The day I signed up for the new career. The first thing I had ever done in my adult life purely for myself. Not for her, not for the ledger, not for anybody's approval. Me. One signature. Neither of us knew the chain reaction I had just started. And this entire show is that chain reaction still going. So, the training. The kind where they take your whole life for months. You write actual letters like it's 1943, and you come out a different man. Or you don't come out. I won't call it a sentence, but the resemblance was legal. In the middle of it, there was a break, time off for good behavior. Even the corrections boss honors that. No check-ins required. Yours to spend. I could have come home. I had a little money saved, not a lot, a little, because I hadn't been able to spend a dime in months, and I wanted to treat her. I was lonely, and per her letters, so was she. Lonely and sad, in ink. I told her I could come home. She told me not to. Sold it to me beautiful, too. Stay, save the money, that's why you're there. And I bought it because it sounded like a woman investing in our future. And I didn't yet know the difference between investment and inventory management. So, New Year's Eve, 2016. I'm alone at the training site. My foot's busted from months of grinding. I'm trying to stay awake for the midnight call, our call, the ceremony. And my body, which had been running on fumes since summer, made an executive decision. I fell asleep. She called at midnight. I missed it. Called back when I woke up. Too late. Count blown. Ceremony broken. First time in the history of us. And where was she when she made that call? A New Year's party at a club with her single friends and her sister, while the man she told to stay away slept alone on a mattress with a busted foot and a savings account he was keeping for her. I missed one call, exhausted, in service of a plan she sold me. She held it for years. Years. Played it like a card whenever the table needed turning. And you want to know the sickest symmetry in this whole story? You get what you give. What goes around comes around. Except when she finally gave it back, 3 years later, in a red robe, she gave it back fierce. Hold that. We're coming back to it at 1 in the morning. My friends saw it. That's the thing about friends. They're a distinct makeup of you. You reflect them, and they reflect you, and what they see in themselves is what they can see in you. My homeboy Braxton, you'll meet him properly one day. He's load-bearing to this whole universe. Braxton saw it for exactly what it was, years before I did. He had a word for it, filed it, said his piece, watched me ignore it. Remember that Braxton had a word. It's about to echo out of a mouth that has never met him. And Wonder saw it too. Hold that name. She's the whole second half of this episode. Act 2. The Island. 2018. I'd been living and working on an island on the other side of the world for a year. Far from home. Far from her. And here's the twist nobody back home saw coming. I was good at it. High speed, catching on quick. Company noticed. I got selected for a leadership certification, the kind where finishing it means the next step comes with a title. For a man who'd spent years being somebody's errand line item, that course was the first thing in a long time that belonged to me. I called her, told her where I was headed. She was excited for me, genuinely, I think. And in the same conversation, the very same call, she told me about her new friend. She joined a league back home. Ball. Staying sharp, staying fit. That's her, always was, athlete to the bone. And she'd met a teammate, and they'd bonded. Now. You make friends with teammates. That's normal. That's the whole point of a team. What's less normal is going from teammates to inseparable on a schedule that would make a honeymoon blush. But I was an ocean away, and lonely people need people. And I told myself the math worked. Let me describe this teammate for you, because you're going to want the picture. She worked construction, owned something in it, ran something in it, top dog either way. Built like the job. Haircut that answered a bunch of questions nobody had asked her yet. And here's where I need to be careful, because there's a word I used for her in my head for 2 years, and I can't say it on this show. But whatever word just walked into your head right now, uninvited, that's the one. Say it for me. Did I worry? Not for 1 second. And I want you to hear my actual logic, because arrogance deserves to be quoted accurately. Why would I worry? I'm coming home eventually, and I'm out here looking like David Beckham and Tyson Beckford had a whole son. Write that on my headstone. He thought handsome was a security system. Because let me give you the lesson I learned way too late, free of charge. Looks don't keep anybody. Ask the most beautiful woman on the planet, the one whole stadiums sing for, how that worked out. Ask the biggest movie star alive. Ask a legend's widow, rest in peace to the man. Ask America's college sweetheart from every 90s film you love. The finest people to ever do it, and the lights still went off on every one of them. Beauty doesn't keep the lights on. Turns out love doesn't either, but we're getting there. Now, the island wasn't all leash. The island gave me one of the best humans I've ever known, and she enters this story the way she enters every room. First, and armed. I was new, still finding my footing, and I must have been looking at something wrong, or standing wrong, or breathing in a way she found suspicious. Because the first words this woman ever said to me were, "And who the hell are you, looking like you want to do something?" I did not want to do something. I have never wanted to do something less in my life. I'm a lover, not a fighter. But I knew from that exact sentence that she and I were locked in forever. Some friendships start with a handshake. Ours started with a threat assessment. I call her Oki-san. Picture a runway model, but with a look that would leave you stunned. Jaw dropped, eyes out the sockets. Like when the hottie crossed the screen on your favorite cartoon growing up and the wolf's heart came pounding through his shirt. Yeah, she was that bad. A mouth that could headline, skin so dark and smooth it looked personally blessed, hair always arranged like it had a publicist, and a walk that made grown men reconsider their entire 5-year plan. And that is my friend. Let me repeat that for the men in the back who don't believe it's possible. My friend. Men flocked to her. I watched her beat them off with a bat, verbally mostly. And that's when I knew she wasn't going to be a situation. She was going to be my bodyguard. Because here's the thing about Oki-san. She didn't feel sorry for anybody. Her position was that most people are currently receiving a package they ordered. Where she made an exception was me. Not because I was pitiful, but because she could see I was actively working at getting better. And effort was the only currency she accepted. She never sat me down and said, "Let me show you how to be a man." She didn't have to. She just was the example at full volume, on schedule. Own money, own everything, needed nothing from nobody. And when anyone tried to talk down on me, and people did, because a broke man on a leash is easy sport, she ended it before it started. We explored that island every chance we got, kept each other upright while we were both carrying things we didn't fully name. I never crossed a line with her and never wanted to, not because she fights, though she absolutely fights, but because what she gave me was safety, and I'd had so little of it that I wasn't about to gamble the supply. I couldn't identify what I felt around her back then. I just knew I could exhale. File Oki-san. She's got her own episode coming, and it's earned. But let me show you what the leash looked like from the island, because distance didn't loosen it. Distance is where a leash shows you its real length. I was broke over there, broke like a joke without a punchline. So she gave me her credit card. So I'm generous? It was, the way a toll booth is generous. Because I was a made man with that card, but I owed every swipe back. And she monitored the statement like it was a parole condition. If she decided a purchase was out of line, she'd kill it, remotely, from the other side of the planet. One night I'm out with the crew, feeling like a human being for once, and I do the thing men do. This round's on me. Card declined, in front of everybody. I step away, call her, and she tells me, calm as a bank recording, "You have no reason to be out. You still owe me money." And here's the part that stings worst in the retelling. She was right. I walked back to that table with my tail so far between my legs it changed my gait. And Oki-san looked at me that night, didn't say a word about it, but she filed it. She filed everything. That's what 2018 me was. A man with a title coming, and no wallet of his own. Certified at work, declined at the bar. Act 3. The message. The certification course took me off the island to a country nearby. A few weeks of early mornings, evaluations, and free time I didn't know what to do with. Bored is dangerous for a man like me. Bored is when the old software boots up. So I did what I always did when the walls got close. I opened the phone and started running the easy list. Messaging women, not chasing anything, keeping doors cracked, staying entertained. A man rehearsing for a life he hadn't admitted he wanted yet. Because the woman funding his current life had gotten real quiet lately, and quiet from her felt like weather about to change. And then, 1 a.m., my side of the world, the phone lit up. And it was a name I had not seen in 2 years. Wonder. I need to stop the whole episode and build this woman for you properly, because she's not a plot point. She's a pillar. Wonder and I go back to another city, another life, the era before this one. We worked the same job, a counter gig, and she was also my neighbor, which is the universe double booking on purpose. This was the season right after the first great wound of my life, a woman you haven't met yet and won't for a while, because she belongs to a different book entirely. And I was underwater, depressed in the way where you're technically at work but spiritually unreachable. Wonder did everything to keep me above the surface, everything. While drowning in her own water, mind you. Somebody had hurt her too, hurt her bad. And this is a woman with a personality the glove of Thanos couldn't crack. Whoever got through that armor did damage I still don't forgive. Picture her. Tall, country, built like the reason speed limits exist. You know your Friday night lineup growing up, your weekday evening sitcoms, the ones you weren't really watching for the plot. Every hottie from every one of those shows blended in their prime. That's the neighborhood. And I'll say it the way I said it then. The woman had more TA than TNT, stacked. I spent years wondering how she got in them jeans, and I'm convinced a certain St. Louis rapper wrote a whole song about her without ever meeting her. And the accent on top of it, and the thighs, if I'm being a historian. Men flocked. Vultures, all of them. I didn't believe her until she showed me one trying to slide through her side door mid-conversation and getting cancelled in real time. And this woman, 2 jobs, her own weight on her shoulders, would cook, would clean, would mow her own yard and then ask if I'd eaten. Not because she was auditioning, because taking care of her people is her factory setting. We made each other better. That's the whole description. When I wasn't on a leash, I was with Wonder, and Wonder never once exploited the soft season I was in. She let me embrace it, took me places, tried new things with me, let me lead, a thing I didn't know I was starving for until she handed it to me like it was nothing. Was I in love with her? Yeah, I was. She never knew. I'm telling you, the dark, the notebook, whoever's out there, because it matters to this story. I never shot my shot, and here's the honest autopsy. Her standard was high. The men she dated had a status I hadn't earned yet, and I had convinced myself I wasn't enough. Not man enough, not built enough. I wouldn't have known what to do with all that woman, and I mean that in every register. And I was emotionally afraid. Wonder knew all my tricks. There'd be no games with her, no chess. She sees everything. And a man who survives on moves doesn't know how to approach the one board where moves don't work. So why the 2 years of silence? Because of her. The woman we don't name did not like Wonder for the crime of being good for me, and she didn't like any friend that took my attention off the account she was managing. And one summer at a party at her place, a party where the whole scene was ours, new faces, old faces, the spot to be, the thing happened. I'm not going to give you all of it. Some scenes stay in the vault, even in a show like this. What I'll give you is the shape. There was food, and there was greed, and there was wonder calling it out loud in front of everybody exactly the way it deserved to be called. And there was me, the lapdog, jumping in to defend the hand that fed me, a chihuahua barking at a Rottweiler on behalf of its owner. And in the middle of it, I said something to Wonder that I knew would cut. Because when you love somebody, you know where the soft tissue is. I aimed for it, on purpose, in front of people. A hand came across my face. I won't tell you what happened after that. There's no need to bring that part into the light. What I'll tell you is what it cost. 2 years. 2 years of no Wonder. The one person pulling me back to Earth, gone, and the person who kept the lights on, still charging me for the electricity. Wonder had told me plenty of times what the arrangement really was. The word she used was situationship. Stop. That's Braxton's word, the exact word. A man in a whole different city, a whole different chapter of my life, who has never met Wonder, never seen Wonder, doesn't know Wonder exists, and here it comes out of her mouth like they'd rehearsed it. That's what I mean when I say your friends are uniform. The real ones don't need to meet each other. They're all reading from the same file because the file is you, and the truth about you only has one wording. I didn't argue with her. I just explained, with a straight face, that Wonder couldn't hold me down financially, as if that was the measurement. As if the woman doing my books was doing my soul. That's who I lost her defending. So, 1 a.m., a country far from home. The phone lights up, and it's her. Wonder. I stayed up the entire night, didn't sleep 1 minute. We had 2 years to cover, and we covered it like the tape was rolling. Jobs, family, wounds, everything. And I was so happy I could have run the perimeter of the whole country. Because here's what was really happening in that conversation, under the catching up. I was looking for a way out. I was coming home soon, and Wonder would have backed the man I was becoming. I was learning to provide. I was earning a title. I wasn't the soft boy she'd known. I'd put on armor since the last time she saw me. I was ready. For the first time in my life, I was going to shoot the shot. And then the update came. She had kids now, little ones. And I didn't blink at that. I was in, instantly, fully. I saw the whole thing, a blended family. I started planning it the way I plan, quietly, completely, in a notebook nobody sees, that she was working things out with their father. And I had to sit in a small room on the far side of the planet and come back to reality, one organ at a time. Because she's loyal, remember? That's the whole product. The exact quality that made her worth building a life around is the exact quality that closed the door on it. Her career was climbing. Single mother, 2 jobs, carrying weight no man around her would even offer to lift, and thriving anyway. And listening to her win, I felt 2 things at once. Turned on and disqualified. I wanted to carry it for her. All of it. That's my whole condition. You'll understand the name I chose by the end of this season. But not this one. Not yet. And let me close her chapter tonight with the thing her name has been doing to me for years. Wonder. They named her right. Some British band in the 90s wrote a whole anthem about it. The one person who's supposed to save you. Everybody's got one. Everybody wonders about somebody. What the match would have been, what the life would have looked like. The door you walked past and still check the handle on. But here's what the card table taught me. Wondering is studying. And if you study long, you play wrong. I spent 7 years wondering what my life would look like without the woman we don't name. All that wondering aimed at the wrong woman, because if I had ever wondered correctly, Wonder would have turned into mine. See what I did there? She never will be. That's not this story. But some names are prophecies you read too late, and hers was the clearest one on the page. Act 4. The Song. Meanwhile, the woman actually holding my leash had gone ghost. Graduation was approaching. My title, my one earned thing. And I could not get her to pick up the phone. Calls out, nothing back. Meanwhile, the phone that wouldn't ring for me was very much alive online. Her and the teammate posted up everywhere together, having the time of somebody's life. She'd send just enough to check the block. A message every few days, flat as a receipt. And I stayed loyal. You want to know why a man stays loyal to a dial tone? Fear. I did not know what my life looked like without her, because she had made sure I never had to find out. That's what the card was. That's what the rent was. That's what the lights were. So it's a regular day near the end of the course. I walked to the little one-stop by where we stayed, the kind of place that sells everything and specializes in nothing, to grab a sandwich from the counter in the back. And the speakers are playing something. Post Malone. The one about being better now. And the opening bars, before the words even arrived, did something to my body that I couldn't explain then and wrote about almost 3 years later. Goosebumps. Full stop, mid-stride, sandwich forgotten. It was like the man had read my file. It was over. Not, it might be over. Not, we should talk. Over. Some part of me that doesn't use language had already done the math, and that melody was just the receipt printing. And I want to be precise about the timeline because this is the part that should hurt you on my behalf. That was the beginning of 2018. The breakup you're about to watch happens January 3rd, 2020. 2 years. I heard the truth in a sandwich line, through cheap speakers in a country far from home. And I put it in a drawer and did everything to keep us alive anyway. More calls, more gifts, more money I didn't have. I had our future planned. My whole life to that point had been for her, and I could not admit the position was already lost. And here's the detail I can't shake. I heard that song again days later somewhere else, twice in one stretch. I don't believe in coincidence. That was a sign, delivered twice for the hard of hearing. I gambled 2 more years of my life against a song that told me to fold. She thought she was better now. Hold that sentence. It comes back at the end, with teeth. Act 5. The Chase. 2019. Back in the States. New title, same leash. And now the chase begins, because proximity turned my denial into cardio. 9-hour drives. 9 hours. One direction. To sleep in hotels I could not afford, to get hours of her time that she metered out like samples at a warehouse store. I'd drive up, orbit her schedule, drive back, and call it a relationship. And while I was doing all that driving, I went ghost on everybody who actually loved me. I'd met Horace by then. You know Horace. My 3 amigos from back home, Sonny and Ozzy. You'll meet them properly one day. Hadn't laid eyes on me since I changed careers, and Ozzy had dreamed of the path I was walking, and I couldn't even give the man a phone call so he could live it through me. Gray was back in the country. Gray, the smartest woman in the world. Her whole episode is coming, I promise. And I wasn't calling her either. I wasn't calling anyone. She wanted it that way. She'd never say it plain, but every friend was a withdrawal from her account, and she ran a tight book. Now let me itemize the year, because the receipts tell it better than I can. There was the bag. She wanted a specific one, a $500 situation from a store in a specific mall. I could not afford it. I bought it anyway. Wrong style. She was upset. Not gracious upset. Upset. So I bought it again. Correct style this time, plus shipping. We're now well past $500 on a bag, purchased twice, by a man donating his dignity in installments. Gray found out about the bag. Gray was, let me use the scholarly term, livid. She didn't even reveal the full depth of it until later. Keep up, there's a phone call coming in a future episode that will reorganize your chest. Not tonight. Tonight, Gray gets one sentence, and it's this one, delivered to me over a long-distance line with a doctorate behind it. Any woman who has you buying anything while you're trying to get on your feet is not the person to be with. The smartest woman in the world said that. I heard it. I filed it under later. But something in me was moving anyway. Because that same season, I noticed money leaving my account that I had not moved. She had all my information, all of it, every login, every account since the broke years. And instead of confronting her, I did something the old me could not have done. I quietly opened a new account. And before the year closed out, I paid her back, every dollar, the whole ledger cleared. And I had $3,000 saved, mine, untouched, unmonitored. I need you to understand what that number meant. $3,000 was not money. $3,000 was a self. I had gone from token to a man with a balance. I was leveling up, and I was so proud I could have cried at the ATM. You know what I did with the level up? Christmas was coming, so I bought her a watch. The watch, fruit company, all the bells, all the whistles, hunted every discount like it was a second job and still nearly emptied the savings. Nearly all 3,000. The self converted back into an accessory, gift-wrapped. She got me nothing, made no plans to visit, no attempt, no gesture, not a card. And the honest ledger says, part of me didn't even want her to come. But the dependent part, the part she'd spent years building, still needed to feel wanted so badly that I'd liquidate a savings account for a woman who was, at that very moment, being lavished by somebody else. Because the teammate, it turns out, had money too, was buying her everything, matching a bid I didn't know had been opened. That was December 2019. You already know what else happened that December. The visit, the room without cameras, my mother, the truth, the lights. So run my tape for that month. I learned my whole childhood was staged. I hand my savings to a woman who won't return calls, and I drive away from my parents' house with one working conclusion about love. And I took that conclusion straight to the one place that still felt safe. Bays. Act 6. 40 seconds. Back to the couch, the plate, the movie. 11:58. Bay. My oldest soft place. Childhood history, the one I only ever seemed to call mid-collapse, which is its own confession for another episode. She'd just leveled up her whole life, degree, career, the works, and there I was on her couch, a man with a new title and an empty savings account, watching the clock like it owed me a ceremony. Because it did. The call, the count. Her half, my half. It had survived every distance, every year, every ocean. Midnight. Nothing. The TV celebrated. The sky outside popped and crackled. My phone lay there with all the urgency of a brick. Bay looked over. You good? I just put my head down. Couldn't even perform. And Bay, who does not do soft for anybody on this earth except apparently me, hugged me and said, You know what to do. It's going to be all right. She walked me to her room and gave me her bed like you'd give a sick man a cot. Lights low. And I lay there in the dark doing the thing waiting men do, bargaining with the clock. Time zones, bad service, phone died. She's driving, any minute. 1 hour later, 1 a.m., the phone rang. Video call. There she was, in a red robe. Now, I've spent 5 episodes teaching you how I read rooms. Read this one with me. It's an hour past midnight on New Year's. She's in a robe. The lighting behind her is not her apartment's lighting. And the energy coming through that screen was not Happy New Year, baby. It was the energy of a person returning a call the way you return a shopping cart, because leaving it feels worse than the 11 seconds it costs. I asked where she was. She said she couldn't really hear me. On a video call that she placed. So I pulled. Asked again. Different words, same question. Where are you? Who are you with? And because she could tell I was bleeding, she's many things, but blind to a wound was never one of them. She gave me something. A name. The name. The teammate. Present. In the room. At 1 a.m. On a one night of the year that had belonged to us since before either of us had anything, she said she had to go. And went. Now, before you pour one out for me, let me blur the lines the way they were actually blurred, because this show doesn't protect me either. Where was I taking this call? Another woman's house, in another woman's bed. Was my being there innocent? Bay is my oldest friend on this earth. I keep it formal with her family to this day. I once took that woman to a football game and called her father first to ask permission, grown as we were, because that's the standing arrangement between me and that household. Nothing slick has ever survived her daddy's porch. But let's not baptize me. I was running game that year, everywhere, on everyone, and you heard last week exactly what kind. The difference between me and the person standing behind that phone screen came down to jurisdiction, not character. We were both playing games that night. She just wasn't playing on my team anymore. Hold that phrasing. It's about to mean something. No count, no code, no Happy New Year. No I love you, not even the lazy version, not even the one you say to a cousin. 40 seconds. I timed it later, the way you rewatch a knockout. 7 years. 7. Med students walk in as civilians and walk out as doctors in less time than it took us to decide if we were getting married. And I wanted to marry her. I was putting money away for a gaudy diamond and a house bigger than Texas, planning a forever with a woman who was metering me by the message. 2,500 days of us, give or take. And the closing ceremony ran 40 seconds, and I wasn't even a participant. I was an errand on her list. She checked the block one last time, and the block was me. You get what you give. I missed one call in 2016, dead asleep with a busted foot, and she held the receipt for 3 years. Then she settled the account. Fierce. I set the phone down on Bay's nightstand, face down, the way you close a casket. I stayed in that bed for days. Not dramatic days, logistical days. No appetite. Dark room, covers up, while Bay worked at her desk a room away, keys clicking, not bothering me, checking in like a nurse on rounds. She'd bring words of encouragement in, set them down like water, and leave. She never once said, I told you so, and she had years of receipts that entitled her to. On the third day, January 3rd, she came in and just talked to me. Not advice, presence. We took some selfies because she demanded proof of life. She handed me things for the shower like a woman processing an intake. And somewhere in that shower, the clarity landed. And I need you to understand the specific kind of clarity because it's the whole point of the 2 years. It didn't feel like a wound. It felt like a fact. You can't be shocked by news you've been sitting on since a sandwich counter in 2018. The song had told me. The declined card had told me. The unreturned calls, the robe, the 40 seconds, all just footnotes on a ruling that came down 2 years earlier. January 3rd, 2020 isn't the day it ended. It's the day I stopped appealing. Bay never told me what to do. She said I already knew. She was right about that, the way she's right about everything except her own heart. But that's episode 9, and I'm getting ahead of myself. A week or so into January, I sent the message. Short. I'm not doing this anymore. Laid it all on the line. The ghosting, the teammate, the years, the math. You know how long it took her to respond and ask if we could talk about this decision? A week. A woman who once canceled a bar tab from across the planet in real time needed 7 business days to respond to the end of us. And when she finally did, I gave her the shortest performance review of my career. Nope, I'm good. Your actions already voted. And that was it. Whole. Free. And I'm not going to lie to you and say I cried. I smiled. I smiled like a man walking out of a building he'd been told he could never afford to leave. The rest of the truth came trickling in later, the way it always does. The teammate had been more than a teammate for a while. Because it turns out my woman didn't just play for that team in the league. She batted for it. Get it now? The bond that moved too fast, the posts, the robe, the room. I'd spent 2 years watching the scouting report and reading it wrong because I was checking for men. I had the whole perimeter guarded, and she walked it in through a door I wasn't even watching. And the teammate had been buying her everything, matching a bid I didn't know had been opened, with money I didn't have and attention I wasn't giving. She traded up, or she traded sideways. Honestly, from where I sat, she traded honest, because that teammate could give her the 2 things I never had. Full attention, fully funded. The transaction found a better counterparty. That's all a ledger love can ever do. I drove to Bays to tell her it was done. Wanted to surprise her. Sat on a porch with a black, smoking slow, watching the street. She wasn't home. I finished the smoke and left, and told her later, and she was ready to press charges on my behalf retroactively. That's Bay. She wasn't co-signing my choices. She was just angry for me, which is a different bank entirely. The closer, better now. So now you can read the entry that this whole episode has been orbiting. October 25th, 2020. The desk, the notebook. 10 months free, deep in the rotation you heard about last week. The roster, the grades, the era. And the song comes on, that song. And they wrote, I have lived this song. I couldn't identify it back then, but I get goosebumps every time I hear it. It was like the man was telling my story. And then I wrote the sentence that had been true since a sandwich counter on the other side of the world. She does think she's better now. And then the sentence underneath it, the one that took 2 years and 40 seconds and a red robe to earn. My life up to that point was for her. Now, I live for me. Same entry, because my notebook has never once let me end on a clean note. Some woman from the roster had asked me that week if I missed her, and I wrote my answer down verbatim. Bro, you're goofy. It's not that I don't feel. I don't want to feel. I get smitten for a minute and come back to reality. 2 women got me to vulnerable in this life. You've now met one of them. And I wrote, for the first time on paper, I'm seeing a pattern in my dating. First honest sentence in the whole notebook, maybe. And then the page goes darker. Same handwriting, same night. Relationships aren't real. My parents were a lie. Bay's parents were a lie. Her parents were a lie. Everybody cheats. Everybody. Fuck love. And then, no break, no new line, no pause. Right now, today, I pray that I can change my view. But here I am, lost. Read that again. Fuck love and a prayer in the same breath, in the same ink. That's the whole man. That is the whole house. Both switches, same wall. So, she thinks she's better now. Here's the part I promised you with teeth. So did I. 10 months out, roster deep, savings rebuilt, dropping off deliveries like the milkman, playing chess in a world full of checkers. I'd have testified under oath that I was better now. But look closer at the man in that notebook. Grading women, keeping books, running every connection like an account with terms. 7 years in her school, and I graduated with honors. I didn't leave the transaction behind. I became it. She taught me love was a ledger, and I spent 2020 proving I'd learned. She thought she was better. I thought I was better. One of us was lying. And it's taken this notebook and this show and every episode left in this season for me to find out which one. Because free and better are not the same word. Free is January 3rd. Better is a construction project. And in October of 2020, I hadn't even pulled the permits. I'd sworn off her entire type and started dating like the United Nations was in session. Every nation represented, every delegate getting the same opening speech. You'll hear about that speech next season of my life. 3 words I said to all of them. And you'll hear about Ladybug, who caught me mid-sentence and read me my rights. But the pattern was already written down. October 25th. I'm seeing a pattern in my dating. The Notebook saw it before I did. The Notebook always does. I am Atlas. I heard the song 2 years early and stayed anyway. And even when the lights are on, they're off. Next week on The Unlit House. The Saint. August 2020. Atlas is deep in the rotation, deep in the Notebook, and running on fuck love as an operating system, when a message arrives from a name he hasn't seen in years. Atlas, I found you. She'd been searching for him through layers of mutual friends. She knew everything and judged nothing, and gave him no passes either. The best friend for life. The one who put a Bible back in the hands of a man who'd stopped believing in love, and taught him to read it through the only lens that survives this house. She found him. Whispers, right when he was the most lost.